Wow. Oh my God, Lily, that's so good. Oh man, and painful. I was in the Navy for some time and I was like, oh my God, this feels like it felt like boot camp in a way. Wow, thank you for that. It was good to hear that. Yeah. All right, let me get something to drink real quick. Okay, so I'm still thinking about that, so I'm kind of collecting myself here. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Welcome to the Zoom. We're all here. All right, anybody need a cigarette break? I'm just joking. Okay, so I'm gonna read, I've been working on a book about Nas, the rapper Nas's albums and songs. So I'm gonna just read that. I'm gonna read a little bit of the intro and then move into one of the songs. All right. So intro. I grew up in a small town in West Virginia, Kimball. Population is 500. I read a lot before going to middle school, but outside of textbooks and newspapers, I read only one book from the ages of 12 to 21. And I'm a novelist now, and I teach writing. Reading only one book was partly an institutional fault and partly my fault. Partly my fault because I cared more about math, painting, and maps, and partly an institutional fault because of poverty, and we were assigned only one little funky-ass book throughout middle and high school. I hated English classes because they were mostly about correcting our language by prescribing us with ways to speak. So the generations of language that we celebrated in, cried in, analyzed with, and joked in was wrong. And the books were about white people and white problems and white triumphs and white hopes and white dreams. So I was like, fuck English and literature and all that white bullshit. I was right and I was wrong. I was wrong because, of course, rap, and I was wrong because I was listening to rap. What I mean is I was right about disregarding white English and white literature because rap was about Black problems, Black triumphs, Black hopes, and Black dreams. And I was wrong to disregard literature in general because rap is literature, but none of my English teachers would have called it that. I learned just as much, if not more, about social studies, geography, and language from rap albums than I did from school. And rap albums were not about correcting Black speech. They valued all its inventiveness, flexibility, warmth, and urgency. Rap albums were spaces for me to learn without feeling like shit because of the way I talked. Plus, I got to see that the way I talked was smart, contemplative, and caring, and a lot of other shit. So the summer after third grade was when I first heard I Got It Made by Special Ed. And he said, I'm outspoken, my language is broken into a slang, but it's just a dialect that I select when I hang. I had never heard the word dialect in my life, so I looked it up because my grandma made me like she did every time we asked her what a word meant. A particular form of language, specific to a region or social group. In the first verse, Special Ed said he had the gift of speech. So boom, that was it for me. Slang was a gift of speech that we use when we hang with our friends. That following school year, we had to write one of them little pages about what we did over the summer. I wrote that I was cold maxing with my crew in New York and I ain't have nothing but fun to the max. That was true. We took a Greyhound to Yonkers to visit my aunts and cousins them. My teacher went off in front of me in the class. She said that ain't and duh weren't words, that there was no such thing as cold maxing, that I needed to learn proper English. I looked her dead in her punk ass face and said, look, my language is broken into a slang. It's just a dialect that I select when I hang. That same year, 1989, I was obsessed with the Just a Friend video by Biz Markie. We were also learning all the state capitals. North Dakota's state capital was Bismarck. So in my 8-year-old mind, the connection was obvious. I looked up Biz Market Encyclopedia, again, because my grandma made me, but I ain't pay attention to shit but the trees and the brick Capitol building. Then I wrote a letter, straight up addressed on the envelope, to North Dakota from Stephen Dunn. Dear North Dakota, thank you for naming your state capital after my favorite rapper, Biz Markie. I'm glad y'all let him have his video at the Capitol building and he was sitting on the bench with his friends. It was easy for me to remember your capital. Please tell Biz Markie I said hello and I'm sorry his girlfriend kissed another boy. Audi 5000, Stephen MC Lil Steve Dunn. I walked down the hill to the post office and slid that envelope with no postage or return address into the big blue mailbox. Then I got my grandma's mail and a money order, went to the other store to play her numbers. Then I walked back home beaming like, yeah, maybe my mama can take me to North Dakota so I can make a song with Biz Markie. All of that is to say that I was already tuned to language and places through rap by the time I hit 7th grade when Nas dropped Illmatic. Then the summer before that, when he dropped It Was Written. Then in 12th grade, when he dropped I Am. And right after I got out of boot camp the same year in '99, he dropped Nostradamus, Stillmatic in 2001, Godson in 2002. All of them albums came out during my ages of 12 to 21. So I have to take back what I said about about only reading one book, because Nas albums are books to me. So I read like 6 more books, God damn it. So, because I was always rapping and shit at home, my grandma would be like, if you knew your schoolwork like you knew them damn rap songs, you would be a genius. So I'm telling my grandma what I would tell y'all now, rap was my school, you know, now these songs are my schoolwork. So that's what I'm gonna do, write about my books. All right, let me get something to drink real quick. Okay, so now I'm going to look at New York State of Mind Part 2, which is on the album I Am in 1999. All right. So in my creative writing classes, I teach world building and setting, but I teach it through movement and space and rap lyrics. Movement because it gives a sense of 3-dimensional space, and rap because it builds 3-dimensional worlds in small spaces, and because rappers are usually rapping out of layers of marginalized identities, like race, education, class, geography, and so on. Like these mugs really be letting you know where the fuck they be coming from. Like there's some real urgency. Like we still here, even though almost everything in this country is dead set on silencing us and killing us off. I feel like more than any other popular music genre in the US, rap is the most explicitly and consistently concerned with place. You can make an argument for country because they be serious about their places too. We know how many empty beer cans and whiskey bottles on that dirt road off of Route 52, but you don't hear too many country singers talking about dirt roads and shit in LA or Chicago or Seattle or New York. I've been explicitly and consistently obsessed with place too, because I grew up in a small town and wanted to go somewhere else, and because I've been listening to rap for a minute. Being in certain places could allow you to do and be certain things. Like in 2001, when I signed an autograph as Jay-Z in Busan, South Korea. I was at the record store and the Korean dude who worked there rolled up on me with Jay-Z's Volume 3 with the CD. He pointed at me, then to the CD cover. I denied it about 5 times, but he kept insisting. So I signed that shit with a flourish, J and a big ass Z with them good ass cursive loops. And being in certain places could also not allow you to do and be certain things. Like I wanted to be a rapper, but niggas just don't get discovered in the woods in West Virginia. Wasn't nobody finna find me in the post office sending my letter to North Dakota and be like, you're so passionate about rap. Do you have a demo? Anyway, being from the country meant you couldn't be a rapper. But shout out to 8 Ball and MJG, Goody Mob, Outkast, and UGK for changing that view. They was from the South, but they were still from big cities, Memphis, Houston, and Atlanta. But you know, I still had fantasies and could imagine other places because of those descriptive lyrics. But fantasies have a reality sting. I knew exactly where I was and where I wasn't, from not having food all the time, to standing in front of the oven for heat, to boiling water on the stovetop so we could take warm baths, even to our play. We used to have these big ass games of hide and seek that lasted for hours. Whoever was it would start counting on the telephone pole at the bottom of the hill. Then 60 child feet scattered, ripping through the streets past all the old folks sitting on their porches and halfway up the hill to the abandoned concrete hotel, 3 stories high and crumbling. Tall, thick-stalked weeds with broad leaves surrounded it. Bright green poison ivy climbed up the side, and treetops fluffed out of random spots where parts of the roof had caved. There were so many odd-shaped rooms and a maze basement with low ceilings. I had a good-ass hiding spot behind the rusted iron coal furnace in the corner of the basement. In some rooms, the floors was missing, so you could sprint from the hall and leap straight into a floorless room and land on the second floor, then run down the hall to another floorless room, jump to the first floor, run out the lobby, and all the way up to the top of the hill to the abandoned high school. The school's white cinder block walls and tarred roof that housed the gymnasium had crumbled and tumbled over the hill, but a blanket of broad-leafed vines covered the rubble. Still bolted to the rotten wooden floor was a cracked and faded leather gymnastics horse that you could stand on and look straight over to the top of the mountains across the valley, then down to the creek, across the train tracks, then back up to the old hotel and all the abandoned houses leading back up to where you stood. Whoever was it had to count on the gymnastics horse while 60 child feet scattered and jetted through the halls and into classrooms to slide under those wide metal teacher desks. Molded and yellow textbooks was tossed around the classrooms, metal student desks kicked over. Somebody, a person or a bear, kept taking the shit in the principal's office. There was piles and piles of fresh glistening turds and crusty black turds illuminated by slanted dust-filled sun rays. We couldn't hide there, so we take off running, laughs echoing through the halls and into the stairway to the second floor. Black spray paint on faded green and yellow cinder block walls. Fuck, shit, bitch. Rappers' names spray painted yellow and red on warped blackboards. Rakim, NWA, Rob Bass, DOC, Biz Markie, EPMD. We also had a lot of abandoned houses to hide in. Not abandoned in the sense that people properly moved out, but abandoned like people just dipped out and left all their shit behind. There was dusty sports trophies, yearbooks, Bibles and vinyl records left on living room tables, dishes and sinks, beds half made with rotted blankets, butterfly collar shirts and bell bottoms still hung in closets, floating ghost-like over red leather platform boots, black penny loafers, and white patent leather church shoes. The reason why Kimball and McDowell County was sort of a ghost hood was because there used to be booming coal towns, but a lot of the mines shut down in the 60s and the 70s and people got the fuck out. The population of McDowell County over the years, 1950, 100,000, 1980, 50,000, 2020, 18,000. In the 80s and 90s, I saw a lot of people leave our town for big dream promises like college sports or fancy jobs and fancy cities, but a lot of them came back for whatever reasons. Some of them felt like shit about being back. Some people looked at them like failures, but some people was glad they folks was back. So this was the movement of decay, the movement of nature, a mass exodus of people, and the feeling and material reality of being stuck because of poverty and its constant downward movement, the movement of strip mining coal, the the movement of KKK rallies down Main Street, the same street the next week us Black kids marched our band for Christmas parades. This is a place that is constantly being emptied out of resources and people, and my fear that it and us would all disappear. So this was my West Virginia state of mind after the first New York state of mind in 1994 gave me the tools to tune in more to my own hood. When Nas dropped I Am in 1999, I was a senior in high school and trying to figure it out if I was going to stay or leave. And there that shit was, another Nas meditation on place, New York State of Mind Part 2. So check out this world building that he does in the opening lines of New York State of Mind Part 2. Broken glass in the hallway, bloodstained floors. Neighbors look at every bag you bring through your doors. Lock the top lock, mama should have cuffed me to the radiator. Why not? It might have saved me later from my block. NY cops, hookers crawling off the stroll coughing. So I came up with some little terms to help me categorize the movements in Nas's New York State of Mind Part 2. So Nas drops us in the hall, and then from the hall it moves to the inside of the apartment. So the source of and that type of movement is bodily horizontal. That's the body moving horizontally. Then the body don't leave the apartment, but it looks down to the block to hookers and cops. So that source type of movement is visual vertical. And the vertical space movement is a major feature of high-rise housing projects. And the vertical space movement of hills was a major feature in my town. So in my little story about hide and seek, I used two different sources for vertical. I use bodily vertical with the kids running up to a hotel and jumping down within it, then running further up to the abandoned high school. Then I use visual vertical, which was like looking out from the school across the valley, then back up to the school. Then there's some instances of bodily horizontal with the kids running through the halls and shit. But the main source of world building through movement is vertical. I also have an instance of auditory horizontal, where the echoes through the hall. And if I wrote about the time I was counting on the gymnastics horse and my homegirl yelled at me from the second floor, "You can't catch me, you slow motherfucker," that would have been oral vertical. If I'd smelled that person or bear shit from the floor, olfactory vertical. So basically, whatever the fuck moves, whether it's bodies, sight, sound, or smell, and what directional plane that shit moves on. So after Nas built the vertical landscape of the housing projects, he ends up back outside. I jog to my building, come out later wearing camouflage, see the sergeant and the captain strangle men, niggas gasping for air till they move no more and just stare with dead eyes. Tired of riots, shit is quiet. In that small space, after jogging to his building, then coming out later, we already know the vertical exists in that space. So once his body is back at street level, he sees the cops strangle men, which is visual horizontal. So the view has changed from looking out of a window to witnessing police violence at eye level, which makes it more immediate and more dangerous. Then we go here. Simple-minded fools infiltrate grimy crews, overcrowded cribs, uncles home from bids, sisters pregnant, fathers on drugs, moms are smoking, beds is piss infested. So this is montage movement, just flashing a succession of images to speed up the pace, or a montage movement can be slowed into a sort of still life depending on the space. Like in my story above, I montaged the fuck out of that abandoned house closet with butterfly collar shirts and bell bottoms, floating ghost-like over red leather platform boots, black penny loafers, and white patent leather church shoes. I also montaged the whole house by arranging it the way you typically move through houses. The Bibles on the living room table, dishes in the sink, the bed in the bedroom. And that montage is quicker because the space is larger and the objects are further apart. But the montage slows when I get to the closet because the space is smaller and the objects are closer together. Nas's montage is fast because his objects are plural in the space of a large housing project. Overcrowded cribs, uncles home from bids, sisters pregnant, fathers on drugs, moms is smoking, beds is piss infested. All right, so in the first verse so far, this nigga Nas got two categories of movement, which is source type movement, the bodily vertical, visual horizontal, and montage movement. Then he has a third category of movement in the first verse, which is the intellectual movement of data. So I call it data movement. So his lines are, I had 8 partners growing up, 8 turned to 7, 7 turned to 6 niggas, got 2 in heaven, 6 of us holding it, and there was 5 rolling thick, 5 niggas went to 4 quick. So in Nas's case, it's a depressing ass decrease in data, and it ends up on 3 niggas from 8, which gives this sense of impending doom that this 3 might go to 0 quick as hell. And I stole that shit too for my little story when I gave the population data for McDowell County. 1950, 100,000, 1980, 50,000, 2020, 18,000. And I don't even want to think about 2030. I'm telling you, niggas be scared of that 0. Thank you, that's it. Yeah.